G'day, everybody. 200 Cops. We're back again. Coming to you live. Sorry, mate. I stirred you up then.
You did, mate.
Listen,
Yeah.
we've got a countdown. We've got a little countdown before we start recording, and I called him a bit of a slur just before we started recording, and it kind of messed with him. So, sorry, mate. Couldn't help myself. So,
Mate,
anyway,
you,
you get that.
you can always get a laugh out of me.
Yeah, exactly right. So I apologise for my appearance. I'm saturated in bushfire smoke and sunburnt, so I probably look like a pickled prune, but that's okay. So yeah, we're back again, and this is a pretty good episode, mate. We've been asked to respond to the Bravery and Betrayal episode that was put out, the documentary
Documentary.
that was put out on the SASR. So I'll get you to introduce that because you know more about the actual way that it came about than me. So you want to let us know what happened there?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. So, look, mate, to start off, because you were supposed to pass to me,
Sorry,
but
mate.
anyway, as you see, I'm wearing the big camo sauce hat, but we've got something to talk about at the end of this. But mate, yeah, let's kick off, and we'll get into the bravery and betrayal. Basically, it was Melissa Brown, one of our listeners, got in contact with us and told us about it, and said she'd love us to do an episode on it. And if you haven't watched it, watch it. We will put a link on our socials, so you can click it. You can watch it on Seven Plus, which is probably the easiest way to watch it. But it is absolutely outstanding. It was done basically to push what the SASR did over in Afghanistan, during the Gulf War and all that sort of stuff. So it gives an insight into what these guys do day in and day out. I've written 4 pages of notes. I've watched it twice, and mate, I can honestly say I teared up for some of it because what these guys did was just absolutely outstanding. And everybody in Australia should be thankful they had these guys on the wall, or
Yeah.
figuratively, figuratively speaking,
Mm,
um, basically protecting us,
mm.
from bad people. So,
Mate, they are
do you want to?
yeah, it's the modern day Gallipoli. When you actually listen to it and see what they went through, it is the modern day Gallipoli. The war on terror went on for so long, and as their one of the officers in there that was speaking, he actually came out and said they were out every single day. There were multiple missions every single day, and every mission was a special operations task group mission. So we're not talking about a patrol. And don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling a patrol, but it was a targeted mission. So they're literally flying into where they know they're going to be in a contact, and that's all mentioned in the documentary itself. But you got to remember, a contact just sounds like a pretty basic word. That's a gunfight. They were going into a gunfight
Yeah,
every single day, and they knew they were. So that's what they were doing. And I think, mate, you've got the notes there, and I've watched it once, but I've been a bit hectic. I'm in Tin Can Bay at the moment, and it's just another training week, which is fine. But I just haven't had the time to analyse the show like I wanted to. But I tell you what, talk about tear up. I teared up too. There are things I can relate to, and don't get me wrong, there is no way in Christ I'm comparing myself to that. But
no.
the similarities and the things I could relate to in my life that I found, I found them emotional. So I think all Australians need to watch it. It's that documentary is the equivalent to those who understand who Charles Bean was, who brought Gallipoli to the Australian people. You need to watch this. You need to understand what these people did. So, mate, you want to go through the notes and we can have some talking points on the actual documentary.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, definitely. And like you said, every single day, I think at the end of the day, they did over 2,500 missions
Yeah,
over there, and I think there was over 1,500 contacts.
yeah.
You're talking about a group of men. This isn't an army. This is a group of elite soldiers,
It's an
and they
extremely small percentage of the Australian army, like less than, well, I don't know the numbers, but it would be way less than 1% of the Australian army.
yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. And a lot of the time, they are actually jumping off helicopters straight into gunfire. It's just intense. I think one of the stories there was they had a stronghold and they went in, and these guys went for 11 hours,
Yeah.
just bit by bit working their way in there. In the end, they had the US helping them as well, and in the end, they pulled them out for the night, and the one of the head guys, I can't remember, he was one of the commanders,
Burnsy.
and yeah,
Mm,
and he said, look, decision was to pull them out. He said these guys came back after 11 hours of full on fighting, bullets flying everywhere, and they've come back and they said, "What do you want now, boss? What
mm,
do you want us to do now?"
yeah.
And he said, "I want you to just put your head down because you'll be going back in again tomorrow."
Yeah.
But he said their attitude was just phenomenal. I mean, these days you look in the city and all that sort of thing, you can't even get people coming to work because they're feeling a bit down and
Mm,
all that. These guys were going in knowing they are risking their own lives and the lives of their mates
mm,
in heavy gunfire to do this day in and day out.
mm.
You can't, there is not a civilian around that could understand
No.
what that's like.
No.
I can't understand what that's like.
No. My takeaway from it was is that we should be so proud that there are people who still do that. I don't know. As a society, we're getting soft, mate. We're soft. We're a soft society. It's all about feelings. People care about all the rest of it. There are still very good people out there who get up every day and do their job in civilian life. Don't get me wrong, but to have men able to come back after 11 hours of full on combat and go, "What do you need now?" Like
Yep.
I'm sorry, but they're the alpha dog, mate. That's what we should be aiming for. That's to me, like, yep, okay, yep, my boots are hurting. I'm hurting all over. I'm dehydrated. I'm buggered. I'm bloody. I'm completely and utterly buggered. I can't do another thing. But what do you need now?
Yep.
Talk about reliability. Holy bloody hell! So, mate, do you want to go through your notes from the time? We can sort of comment on what on individual.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we'll do. So, like as I mentioned before, they went into this stronghold. What's remarkable about that is they were fighting for a significant amount of time, like day in, day out,
Mm,
in this thing. I think they only had two wounded soldiers at the end of it
yeah,
from our side, and I think they killed about 90 Taliban or
yeah,
70, it might have been. But this is a stronghold, and the what they also describe is the fact that they're going in here. They can't just go in and bomb it because there's civilians there as well.
mm,
So they've got to tactically go in, identify the targets, and get rid of them.
yeah,
One of the biggest things they were talking about was they were dropping food, dropping medical supplies to the people, Afghani people, to help them,
mm,
and the Taliban were threatening them that if they took any of it, they would be killed.
yeah.
So,
And what I love there as well is that it got described. There was a legal officer who spoke about exactly what the Taliban would do, and it was public beheadings. These people cooperated with the coalition, cut his head off in public in front of women and children, men, women, and children. This is what we will do to you if you even remotely cooperate with these people. We're talking about evil, and this is relevant in modern society. This is not the 7th century. This is a number of years ago and still occurring. Of course, it's still occurring, but this is the exactly what our troops knew was occurring in Afghanistan at the time, and they're trying to deal with that. So they had a job to do that was we need to get the population to understand that we're trying to stabilise your country and we need you to cooperate and we're going to protect you from the Taliban. So that's a hell of a lot of trust that needs to be achieved from the local population. More to the point, I think the Special Forces soldiers as well, not just, and listen, I don't speak for them. They've spoken, we're just commenting on what we've seen. And I'd love for someone to get in touch with us too and just say, well, this is what we were doing and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Bravery and Betrayal sums it up really well. But just the sheer complexity of what they were doing is incredible. To actually go in there and win the hearts and minds of the local population while fighting against a fanatical enemy with prehistoric ideologies, and then try and come from a 21st century civilized population with rule of law. The contrast is extreme. So I tell you what irked me, and it has been for a while, is that the sense that we get from mainstream media, especially a few years ago now where it was just slamming our soldiers. Um, those corporate cowards from big city who go and have their cocktails at night and all the rest of it and sleep comfortably in their beds. How dare you speak of our special forces soldiers like that? The, men who run rings around you as far as the caliber of a human. I just we need to get back to celebrating the humans who actually deserve to be celebrated. I think we did it really well after the First World War. We went, oh my God, our Australian boys went over there and they were boys. They were not trained. Our Special Air Service Regiment soldiers these days are extraordinarily highly trained. They are elite within the world as well. They are respected worldwide in that Tier 1 Special Forces community. They, when the guys after World War One, they weren't. They were farmers with a little bit of training and how you do things in the military, and away they went, and they were brave. These guys are highly trained, but they are brave. They are doing things that there is still fight, flight, freeze. It still exists, and they just went out day after day after day doing really dangerous things. So that's to me a bit of a rant about we need to get back to basics here and respect actual greatness. And yeah, that was the big takeaway. But sorry, mate, what do you got?
Well, mate, I was just going to say, everybody's got to also know the fact is they're not going over there to just fight war and shoot people. They had a mission, and like, they had people. They had John Howard, Kevin Rudd, and
Tony Abbott was on too.
talking on it. And Kevin Rudd said there, basically said, "What is our mission?" And mate, do you want to go into the mission because you've spoken about that before? You know what is our objective in
Yep.
this war? Do you want to because you explained that really well?
Yeah, no, well, the thing with anything to do with where you're going to use a targeted approach to something, you need to have an objective. So it's all well and good to go, let's put our troops over there. Okay, why? I'll just backtrack a little bit. There's a reason why there's a little bit of pushback from the military when we have natural disasters in Australia. A lot of people say, send in the military. Okay, what do you want the military to do? Because the military don't just turn up and stand around and like help little old ladies across the street. They have capabilities, but they need to have a mission. They need to know you are here to achieve this. This cannot be achieved any other way. Therefore, your job is to do this. So the mission that I'm sort of remembering that Kevin Rudd stated, and listen, I don't like Kevin Rudd, but I'll take
No.
my hat off to him for his commentary in this documentary. He
Yep.
said, we are to secure, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, we're to secure the area of Uruzgan province within southern Afghanistan. So we are to train, and I think it was the 4th Division of the Afghani army, and also the police force within the Afghan National Police within Uruzgan province. So there was a number of set objectives that the military were to achieve while they were there, which is exactly how the military operates. You are to achieve this. It's the same as what we do in even now in firefighting, but certainly in policing. When we had a job to do, it was your mission is to do this. So your success will be this. So it has to be very specifically stated. You're not just there to be a presence. There is a job to do.
Yep.
That job, especially within Special Operations Task Group, and I just want to mention as well, the SASR is the concentration of that documentary, but they also rightfully mentioned the 2nd Commando Regiment, who was part of the Special Operations Task Group, and also their Combat Engineer Regiment within the Special Forces, so the Special Forces Combat Engineer Regiment as well. So there was multiple skill sets within that task group. They sent in to do a job. That job went on and on and on, especially with the SAS being the basically hunting down, kill or capture of tier 1 targets. So what we're saying is leadership within Taliban known terrorists, with evidence-based, investigated by intelligence organisations, and then what we call an intelligence package given back to the operators who will go in and have a kinetic, I love that term, kinetic effect. Basically, kinetic means movement. So the people who will actually do the work on the ground need to get that information so they know exactly what they're doing. There's a hell of a lot to military planning that goes on in the background that everyone sort of doesn't understand. There's a lot of intelligence, as in the intellect, that goes into these kind of jobs. the SAS with their extreme skill sets were able to do that really precise, targeted missions, very high risk, behind enemy lines, where they very specifically go in, do a job, and then get out. It's not like conventional forces that will go in, seize and hold ground, capture the enemy, capture or kill, blah blah blah, and do that patrolling and just provide security within a region. Your special forces are very targeted. They go in, they grab somebody, they move out. They go in, they attack a certain target, they come back out. And that's all. They do long range reconnaissance and provide really crucial on the ground, real world intel directly back into the intelligence section back within the organisation that can then come up with future planning to carry out more of those missions. So people who think that soldiers are just a bit backward, a bit slow, all the rest of it, which you do hear, especially in the corporate world, in the major cities, is so far from the truth it's not funny. It's extraordinarily intelligent work, and then it's executed with extraordinary braveness, or
Yeah.
bravery, I should say. So I think it's good to explain that a little bit.
But it's also like what people also have to understand. Their whole mission out there was to legitimize, or it was a legitimate government, and
Mm,
they were there to support them so they could be a democracy. You
yeah,
imagine living in Australia, having a large group of killers wanting to come in and wipe out a government,
yeah,
and basically kill people for supporting them
mm,
and all that sort of thing. What they were trying to do was make sure that it could be a democracy.
yeah,
Um, and these are people, and I think Kevin Rudd also. And look, I don't like Kevin Rudd either. But however, I would shake his hand if I met him, because what he said about the SAS and their job over there, I thought was outstanding.
yeah,
You've got to give credit where credit's due.
yeah,
But you know, they were there to support, to make sure they could be a democracy and
mm,
work as so. And what you've got to remember, women are seen less than dirt over there.
mm,
Children were being killed.
yeah,
You might sit there and go, "Oh, these big brutes going over there and killing people." Well, no, they're protecting
yeah,
the innocent. And these are Afghanis who are innocent in
yeah,
this war. So you can easily sit there and go, oh, they're just thugheads going over there shooting people and all that sort of thing. No, their objective was to actually make a democratic society where everybody gets a say and everybody's equal.
yeah. It was, yeah. I mean, we could flog that forever, but yeah, the women are just currency over there. It's terrible. The lack of respect for human life that came from the Taliban was incredible. So our soldiers saw all that, and they had limited rules of engagement, so there was only limited things they could do about it. And that's hard work. That's really hard to watch. But I think we've certainly spoken about the bravery, mate. Obviously, there's two parts to the documentary. They talk about bravery and they talk about betrayal. But in between, they spoke about the families. Specifically, they mentioned and they interviewed the wives, the widows, I should say, of two SAS soldiers who were killed over there. So Sergeant Matlock, killed on my birthday in 2007, 25th of October 2007. Sergeant Matlock was killed in action. And something that affected me was the human way that his partner spoke about his son, Keegan Locke, who was 12 years old at the time when his dad was killed. She said that she really wanted Keegan to see his dad, sorry. And it was, she says BRS. We know what BRS is. So there was a few guys there, the few of the guys that were interviewed that were part of his immediate unit that came back, and she said, I don't want a funeral director touching Matt. I want his guys to dress him in his polys because they will know exactly, they will get it perfect. So what I found really touching was that they go on and talk about how his unit came back and dressed his body in his polys with his medals, everything correct, and then brought his son in to see, which is extraordinarily, would be terrifying for a 12-year-old to see your dad dead on a table, basically. But in true Aussie humour, there's always humour, there's always humanity. They said they put a Jim Beam can in his hand. So Keegan Locke came in and spoke about the fact that he saw his dad deceased on the table, dressed in immaculate polys, with his medals all displayed, beret on, but a can of Jim Beam in his hand. And I thought, that's that's classic Aussie coping. Like that's making goodness out of tragedy, especially because the young fella's going to go in there and see and total support. They're wrapping around him and looking after him while he's seeing his
Yep.
dad dead on the table. So that I don't know. I tip my hat to that because I can relate to that. I can relate to that real. I had a lot to do with death, mate, and it's there's something about that that's it would have been a terrible situation for that young fella, but really almost healing in a way to know that he still had that support and his old man had people there who just loved him. They just loved his old man and they just would have, I reckon to this day, they would still look after him. And he's now, well, if he was 12 in 2007, he's 30 odd now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that rocked me a bit. I teared up at that because I understand that thought process and I understand that humour and that humanity. I just love that. I thought that was brilliant.
Mate, you've also got to understand in relation to that, that was one where the actual the hierarchy didn't want to fly him back to Australia, and they basically said it's it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's
um,
right. Well, that was the other fella, Blaine Diddums. Yeah, Sergeant
yeah,
Blaine Diddums.
and it was that's camaraderie, and but there it's about respecting their mate, but it's
Mm,
also about respecting the family.
yeah,
And this is it, and they go into that a lot. They said it's a big family. It's not just a family for the blokes; it's a family for the women and children as well. And
yeah,
the women, the wives were saying the support they got from each other was just fantastic. Because you you got your husband going over there fighting a war where they could get killed any single day,
mm,
at any minute,
mm,
and they had to have their own support network,
mm,
to allow them to be able to put up with that because I've spoken about when you're on the radio in the police and you hear your mates in danger. It's the worst feeling of all because you
yeah.
want to be in there with it, and the worst I think you can actually talk about is the fact that if you're not knowing what they're going into and what they're dealing with, it's very hard to cope.
Mate, it was so much easier being on the ground.
It
We're
is.
back to policing. It was so much easier being the one getting fists thrown at your head than being the one listening to the radio calls because you're helpless. There's something about helplessness that's terrible. So, another term that came up quite a bit when I was speaking about the families was the term rock got mentioned more than once. And
Yep.
one of the guys was on there talking about um, the wives back home, and he said, "You need that rock. You need that absolute safe space rock, who is just there for you." And so the level of respect for their wives was through the roof. They're just overflowing with emotion every time they spoke about their family. I'm talking about the hardest men in the Australian Army. Every time they spoke about their wives, they got emotional because, or
Yep.
families in general, they got emotional because that's your side that's where you really care. That's the side of it that's really important. That's why you do what you do. But it wasn't just one of the guys said she's my rock. My wife was my rock. Blaine Diddums, so Sergeant Blaine Diddums, who was killed in Afghanistan, his widow Tony was on there as well, and she said we were each other's rocks, as in the women, the wives back home when the blokes were on deployment. They were each other's rocks. They were just looking after each other. So they were working as a team back home to just survive, to get kids to school, to just do that daily stuff. And the irony of this is that their husbands were overseas fighting a Taliban where the men don't give a shit about their wives. They are just one of a couple and they are just be off with you, woman. There's no respect for women whatsoever within those circles. And there was the highest level of respect for women within the SASR. So, I don't know,
Yeah.
that was another thing. It's like, talk about politics. It's, well, our guys really did care about women and children and all the rest of it. And over there, they don't give a shit. They just cut their heads off in public. So,
Yep. Mate,
yeah,
you look at one of the segments there, and the guy says, they're just they get called out again, but they're at a barbecue, and his son's playing around and not being much with his dad, and then as soon as they know he's going away, his son comes and grabs hold of his leg and doesn't want him to go.
Yeah, yeah. Said, "Don't go, Dad. Don't go." That was more. So I remember that.
And
That was at the time he teared up talking about his family.
yeah, and
Mm,
and this is the thing, you're seeing some of the hardest men I've
mm,
and I'd shake their hand. They're just absolutely incredible
mm.
people, and you watch them. They're happy to show their emotion about
Yeah.
their family. These aren't just thugs who kill.
No.
They
God no.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got so much empathy, and yeah, they really care about what they're doing, and they're doing it because they know
Mm.
they're trying to make a better life for other people.
Just tier one humans, mate. Just operating at the highest level of human endurance, but then just good folk, just good people. They care about vulnerable people. They care a lot about their family and friends, and care a lot about Australia. So that to me was a huge part.
Yeah,
What else have
mate.
you got in your notes, mate?
Well, mate, there was also one thing that really struck me. I think it was the one of the commanders when he first went. He went to Bosnia
Mm.
in
Bands
one of
Yep.
his first operations, and where the Winter Olympics were,
Mm.
and he saw everything destroyed. And there's actually photos in the documentary of these streets where people would have been having a great time going to the Olympics and all that, and it's all destruction. And what they call it, Sniper Alley or something like that.
Sniper
It
Alley.
was,
So that was Sarajevo in Bosnia in the 90s.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, what his point there was that this is a first world country that all of a sudden has descended into civil war, and he couldn't comprehend the how a so-called first world country could just descend into utter chaos. And he said something that really caught him was something as first world. I mean, you get used to seeing third world countries being ravaged, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying it's okay. Yeah, they're ravaged, but to see very civilized first world structures completely destroyed by war, much like you would be seeing in the Ukraine-Russian war now. He said it really snapped him home. It's like, we are vulnerable. Everybody is able for this to happen. So you imagine seeing the Sydney Harbour Bridge blown up, or the Sydney Opera House wrecked and smoking. So that's what he's talking about. It was like, this is the Winter Olympic Stadium that had hosted the Winter Olympics just a couple of years earlier, and here it
yep.
was blown to pieces. His words, blown to pieces.
Well,
Um,
mate, you just got to remember this started off from 9/11, which
yeah,
is in the middle of Manhattan, with the two towers getting destroyed
yeah,
in a civilized country. This is
yeah,
why this war started, because they attacked our home.
yeah. Attack the
Um,
West. Yeah, exactly right.
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, not our home, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the West. Like, so, yeah, it just, I think it gives a really good view of what can actually happen if you
Mm.
do not fight these wars, if you do not put a stop to these extremely violent, um, disgusting people.
Maniacal, yeah, absolutely maniacal people who have certain views in the world. They must be stopped. There was a reason the whole world went to war in the 30s and 40s against the Germans, because they were putting a whole group of people into camps through gas chambers into ovens. There was a
Yep,
time where the West said, no, that's not acceptable, and we're going to stop you doing that. And not just that, the massive expansion. We have to get our countries back. But that was slammed out. Well, that still occurs on a different scale, but that is still there. There is still a requirement for. I love the saying. I think Tony Abbott quoted it. George L. Orwell. The people sleep safely in their beds, and we've said it before on this podcast. People sleep safely in their beds at night, knowing that rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf.
yep,
You need people who are capable of this sort of thing, and they're not monsters. They're actually the best humans there are, because they're willing to take on extraordinary risk. And I take my hat off to them, because yeah, sure, police do that, emergency services do that on a much slower scale on the civil at home, looking after us here, the community. These guys are on a whole new level. This is a level that we can't comprehend. Special forces soldiers, highly trained, very specially or very carefully selected for their attributes, given a very specific, very dangerous task, and then just without exception, just go in there and go, how can I be of help? Come back after utter exhaustion. You couldn't imagine the exhaustion following an 11-hour gunfight in the Afghan heat, getting onto a helicopter, landing, and then probably sleeping on the helicopter, getting back to a base, walking back in past your commanding officer and going, "What do you need now, boss? Because I'm willing to go. I'll go again right now. You send me back into hell, I'm going."
Yeah.
That's, yeah, kudos.
It's dedication, mate.
Mm,
It like you that kind of and oh, look, I might mention enthusiasm, but it's dedication,
mm,
dedication to a cause
yeah,
because they knew they were doing something good. They were helping people,
mm,
and it's just I think the problem is the media's swayed that so much to the fact that you've got to look at what these people are about. What was their goal, and
mm,
they wanted to help people.
yeah,
Um, and that reflects back to first responders, but nothing to the level of what these guys did.
mm,
Mate, I've made another note here, and one of the things I wanted to mention was, and they said some of the younger guys, because at one stage they said the basically the biggest risk to a SAS were IEDs.
yeah,
Um, so, and of course, what they did is then a couple of the young blokes got in with the American people and actually got choppers to fly them in because then he said the army, the people they're fighting against weren't so big on putting IEDs out there because
mm,
then you've got something else to worry about.
yeah,
And they actually got the American chopper pilots, and they had some of them on the show, and incredible people. These guys are flying these choppers in for these Aussies,
mm,
dropping them on the ground, and there's shots of bullet holes through the bottom of the chopper
yeah.
as
Yeah,
they're landing.
between the rudder pedals, yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, rounds coming through the rudder pedals as you're flying in. So yeah, I'll break that down a bit there. So basically, what one of the guys said was that the big Tony, his name was, he goes, the biggest threat to the Australian soldiers in Afghanistan was improvised explosive devices. And he goes, so what do we do? Instead of putting us in helicopters and getting us up off the ground, they put us in armoured cars. He said that's all well and good. The armoured cars were excellent, but the IED threat just increased. So back to the old magnificent resourcefulness of the Australian soldier and the Special Forces soldier, especially, they solved the problem on the ground themselves, got to know the US Army Black Hawk helicopter pilots, and basically organised that the US Army would now fly the Australian SAS around in helicopters to do their missions, to carry out their missions. As a result of that, what they've done is they've eliminated the immediate threat at a junior officer level. So we're talking in charge of maybe 30 blokes. Just incredible stuff. So to me, that's just brilliant. To me, it really sums up that resourcefulness that has never changed. Another show, an excellent humour to this show that I'd recommend that everyone should watch if this is something you're interested in, is SAS Rogue Heroes on SBS, the series that came out through from Great Britain. It is just brilliant because it shows the start of the British SAS during the Second World War out of Cairo, where they were going behind enemy lines in North Africa and defeating the enemy by just turning up. And that's where the old who dares wins comes from, because they were carrying out these incredible raids on especially airfields in North Africa on German airfields when they're trying to push west out to Cairo and take the Suez Canal. So it was just that the reason I love that series so much is because it shows that adaptability. That I love that they sat down at the beginning. It's obviously for entertainment, but they basically, this is the exact policies and procedures and how we do things in the SAS, and he'd done it theatrically to the troops, and it was just a heap of blank pages. He said, we're here to write our own policies and procedures. Your first mission is to steal a base, and then you need to steal what we need. You're going to steal our vehicles. You're going to get stuff. So the SAS junior officers in Afghanistan went and sourced a better means of transport, being US Army Black Hawk helicopters, and talked them into it. And all of a sudden, the US Army was flying around Australian SAS and Second Commander Regiment soldiers in Afghanistan. So that resourcefulness is still there. It's like
yep.
problem solution. I just love it. It's, to me, I just think they're fantastic, and that
And
to me is awesome.
and the Americans loved them. Like
Yeah.
it just love working with them and all that sort of thing. And look, there's also another point. What you got to look. most people probably listening to this will understand, but you've in war you've got a broadsword or you've got a needle. The SAS are the needle.
Yeah.
They go in, they go pinpoint to
Scalp.
where they need to be. Yep,
Scalp.
yep,
Yep.
scalpel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. And look, the Americans a lot of the time are the big broadsword.
Oh, yeah.
However, these SAS are the scalpel. They're the
Yeah.
ones that go in and do the precision cut that
Mm.
needs to be done to get the
Yep.
job done, and it's extremely dangerous.
Mm.
They haven't got 1,000 troops behind them.
No.
They've just got a group of men. That's it.
Yeah. No, mate.
It's
I couldn't agree more. And look, to move on to the betrayal side of it, we sort of summed up what they did, the caliber of these guys, and like all of them have said, if something went wrong, report it through, investigate it thoroughly, and deal with it within the military justice process, and move on. Don't somehow come out and smear the entire regiment and the entire Special Operations Task Group because of a couple of scuttlebutt rumours. Let's investigate it thoroughly and let's be efficient in our investigations. Like, if it is nigh on impossible to investigate, go, it is not possible to investigate this and the job's done. Like, to me, you would never pursue anybody. I get it. We've spoken about this with the Ben Robert Smith,
yep.
after the arrest of Ben Robert Smith. We spoke about that. If there was a problem, we're not saying, oh, SAS soldiers can't be touched. Yes, they can. They're still humans. No one's above the law. We've said that. Carry out an efficient, rigorous investigation. Come up with what you've got. If you haven't got insufficient evidence, present that to the federal DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions, and let's be done with it. If you've got a case, no problem. Put it to court and let's get to court. Because justice, oh my God, my brain's not working. Justice delayed is justice denied. It needs to be done efficiently, especially for men who've gone through and given this level of service to their country. So I think that was the betrayal part. How dare the media come out unchecked and just say whatever they like? How dare the hierarchy of the Australian Army come out and don't support their troops? Why don't they come out and go, our Special Forces soldiers in Afghanistan performed above and beyond to the highest level of human endurance to carry out their mission. And if anything was done wrong, we will very efficiently, very quickly investigate this matter. We're happy for any independence, any independent agencies to come in and do that. We can step back and allow them we'll completely cooperate with any investigation. But we need to resolve this matter because our Australian soldiers performed admirably, and we need to celebrate that.
Mate, to back that up, I think they said on the thing, basically due to that lack of support, 80% of people have walked out of the SAS,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal.
Talk about a brain drain. That's not exactly like a group of people you can just recruit immediately. We're talking about extraordinarily specialised humans, and that's
With
dangerous. We need
well,
that capability.
yep, and I just related it back to the Zach Rolfe matter
Yeah.
in T because that's exactly what. Well, it's not to the same extent, but I'll tell you what, a lot of people left because if you're not getting supported, you're not gonna. I'm not gonna go in there and fight for somebody that's not having my back. There's
Mate,
no way in the world.
it ties back in perfectly to that because if you're going to ask people to do extraordinary things, you need to give them support. You need to hold them to account for things. Of course, there is a standard there, but I would just say that the standard is, we're back to policing a little bit, the standard is superhuman. It's beyond the reasonable expectations of a human with policing and with Special Forces soldiers. And, why don't we hold everyone to the same level? Politicians aren't held to that. Judges aren't held
No,
to that. But the
no.
people on the ground doing these really difficult jobs seem to be the political ping pong balls. And it's just, it must stop. It must end because it's not sustainable. And Australia is, I think, so safe because people like that exist. But be careful because you need those people. You don't ever see what they do, but they do it. And, yeah, we need to be aware of that. So...
Well, And like a lot of the biggest problem I actually had with it, a number of officers were saying when they were getting questioned, and that sort of stuff, was the fact that the people investigating were asking questions, but they didn't have their facts lined up. So there were people sitting there going, "Oh, well, you were here." He goes, "No, I wasn't." He said, "If you actually look through the whole document, I was not there. I was in this deployment, but I actually wasn't at that situation. So I have no idea what you're talking about." Now, as an investigator, this also look, I'm not going to knock EPSC. I had problems with. There are some very good officers in there. However, there's a lot of them that really I thought didn't have the investigation skills that they
Mm,
needed. They threw accusations without having facts to back it up, and that worries me because we've spoken about investigations, and if we talk to just a common criminal, we have to have all our facts lined up.
mm,
We have to have evidence to back that up. These people are questioning these officers without having facts in front of them.
mm,
They have an idea, and then they just and I think one of the I can't remember, was it Rudd or it might have been not sure, but one of them said you're innocent till proven guilty.
mm,
These guys were looked at as being guilty
mm.
before innocence was thought of, and
Yeah,
that's disgusting.
it's like
We
an
give
investigation will be made to fit an outcome, and that's the cart before the horse, folks, and that doesn't work. So
no,
we've spoken about that previously, but to me, it's we need to get back to basics. Why are we slayed away from this? It's whatever happened to independence? Why is there suddenly an agenda and that drives the investigation? It should be, I am here, I don't know. There's a reason that the legal system is basically a set of scales. It's the Lady Liberty with her blindfold on with a set of scales, which means that is a symbol for I'm not interested in the outcome. I am interested in what is correct, and the investigation will prove what is correct. There is no outcome. The outcome comes at the end. It doesn't come at the beginning. We don't make an investigation fit an outcome. This is not hard, people.
no.
This is what we've done all through my career. This was
Oh,
how we did it. We were trained forever that you must be completely disinterested. You must go in with a very open mind about what may occur, and you let the investigation guide the path. Let the evidence lead the path to where you come to an outcome. And I don't know. We need to get back to that. It just seems like that's slipping. It's like you need to make this fit. It's like, I'm sorry, you're corrupt. Get away from me. I will investigate this and I will tell you the outcome when I know it. I don't know it now.
well, what gets me, mate, is the fact that as a civilization, we're supposed to progress and get better.
Mm,
And I've got the feeling from what we saw when we were in the police, it's actually getting worse.
yeah.
And I think a lot of that, and we've spoken about it before, the separation of powers, too much political influence, too much media influence.
Yeah.
Allow the people that are experienced,
Mm,
the top tier, to do their job
mm,
without influence from people that have no fucking idea what they're
yeah.
talking about.
Yes. And then allow another independent party to come over who are driven by the same thing, a search for the truth, to fact check that. That's fine. As long as
Yep.
they're not coming in with an agenda, there's no problem. If you need to check something, check it. If you want to check one of my investigations from years ago, check it. If
Yeah.
you can come up with something that's good, gives me another line of inquiry. That's where it should be. It's not. We're coming in to prove you guys wrong because it didn't match the agenda. What are we? Like,
Yeah.
why is this even a conversation in 2026?
Well, that's right. How often did we get each other to check our own cases
Constantly.
just to have a look from a different thing? Did I do something wrong? Have I missed something? Because we're human.
Mm,
To
yeah.
err is human. So, and just having a fresh set of eyes. I don't know how many times you and I actually looked at each other's cases and other officers, looked
Yep.
at each other's cases and all that sort of stuff, just to sit there and go, have I missed something? Is there
Mm,
another line? And you get somebody else with some different experience and they go, well, I had this case. Maybe look at this.
yeah.
Oh, yep, excellent, done.
Mate, constantly. You write a statement and go, you run your eyes over that and just check it for me. And they go, oh, mate, you missed this bit. And I went, oh, geez, I did too. Yeah, because it's 2 a.m. and I'm exhausted. So I missed something. Yeah, sure. And great, thank you. It's Cree resource management. It's a fantastic thing. It's a mechanism for capturing human error. So you just use your resources. But mate, I think we've banged on. It's yeah. That
Well,
I think you're
it,
right. You go.
mate, there's just one thing that we didn't mention earlier on, and look, I've got to talk about it because it was a big touching point for me with the dogs.
Oh
The
yeah,
dogs that were
yeah,
working over there. One of the stories, and look, these dogs, the photos of them just tell a million stories. They were just absolutely outstanding. And he talks about one where the dog, basically, there was what do you call it? They had a machine
yeah.
gun set
Machine
up.
gun bunker. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyway, the dog picked it up, dove into the river, and was swimming across. Got three shots to the chest, and one through the mouth or ear or something like that, and actually kept on swimming across and was climbing up the other side. And the Taliban ran out of that bunker. They were just terrified because they'd never seen anything like it. And he said that dog saved so many human lives that day.
I think
And
the reason why people get and it makes me emotional. The reason people get emotional about this is because the dogs are driven by pure loyalty. There's no they just love their men. So those dogs do what they need to do out of nothing but love and loyalty. There's no meanness in them. They can be extraordinarily aggressive, very violent with action, but they're doing it from a sense of protection of their pack, and they don't have an agenda. They are the most honest troops you will find. The most honest beings that are there are the dogs, and that's why the guys got so emotional about that, because they said that they were just purely motivated by love. There's a threat. There's a threat. They've got the senses. They've got the ability to detect things that the guys couldn't detect, and that makes the hardest men in Australia cry their eyes out to the point
yep,
where they do a ram ceremony for a dead dog. A dog shot dead in war got a ramp ceremony with an aircraft that took off and flew back to Australia at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I reckon taxpayer money well spent, because they need to be revered. They're just, yeah, man's best friend.
absolutely incredible. And the other dogs are sitting there at the same ceremony,
Yeah.
watching.
And they
They're
knew
they're
what was going
basically
on.
watching their mate, yeah,
Yeah.
go out, and
Yeah.
it's just absolutely incredible. Yeah, if you do watch it, just have a box of tissues and just let me know.
Oh, I hear you. I think to sum it up, I think every Australian needs to watch that. We need a bit of a reset, need a reality reset. This is what Aussies have done in very recent history, and how about a bit of fucking respect?
Yep,
I think that's the takeaway.
mate. No, definitely, mate. Like, yeah, if you're living safely, if you're worried about your cappuccino being too hot or too cold, just shut the fuck up.
Oh,
Really,
yeah. Let's
it's
put shit in
these.
perspective, shall we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, mate, that was a big take out of it. It was, yeah, it's very touching. It look and just watch it.
Yeah.
Is all I can say.
Yeah.
I thought it's one of the best documentaries I've seen, and thank you, Melissa, for pointing
Yeah.
it out to us. We didn't know about it until you mentioned it, and yeah, we both watched it and loved it, and it does reflect a lot on what's going on with Ben Robert Smith at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and they actually mentioned, it was funny about the kangaroo court, which was funny. But there's one other thing that I want to touch on before we keep moving on. I know we're getting on now in the episode, but the fat lady's arms.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I'm glad
yeah,
you brought that up.
we have to talk about that.
Yeah. So we talk about the police club ad nauseum as a place where you blow off steam. If you operate in an environment that is dangerous, that is stressful, that is wild, you need a place to come back and just ground yourself. And as a result, they had a bar. It was called the Fat Lady's Arms. This has been massively criticised by people in the media who probably live in the middle of Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane. And I guarantee you, on a Friday, Saturday night. They go down and have their cocktails in a beautiful bar in the middle of a big city in the middle of Australia where they're utterly safe. And if they're not safe for any reason, some other people come along and protect them. Okay? They were knocking guys for going back who were doing absolutely extreme jobs in an extreme place for coming back and blowing off steam. We've spoken about dark humour. We've covered all that through the podcast. There was some dark humour that went on there. The Fat Lady's Arms was a place of extreme morale building, basically recharge, and just a levelling out humanisation of these guys while they were over there. It would have saved the mental health of many a special forces soldier while they were over there. And even Kevin Rudd said, I may have imbibed in a tipple while I was there. It's like, yeah, because that's what makes it legendary. In fact, if I was in Perth, I'd have a yarn to the SAS and open a pub called the Fat Lady's Arms and pay tribute to the SAS in Afghanistan, because we're Aussies, we like a drink, we like to blow off steam, we'll do a bloody hard job. We got your back. Aussie soldier wouldn't let you down, but let us relax, let us indulge our sense of humour. Just let us be. We'll be your greatest friend in the whole universe. But let us be that's our culture. We blow off steam. Right. We do that. We drink alcohol. That's what happens.
And if you think the name, the Fat Lady's Arms, is derogatory in any way, just imagine this is a safe space. And where are you most safe? In your mother's arms, usually a lot of the time.
What are you saying about mum?
You know,
get Jude on you.
But imagine it's just where you can feel safe. You're getting a hug, this is where they could actually, like you said, they could blow off steam, they could talk, they could say whatever they want, and it's a safe space, and that's part of the representation of why it's called that. Because you can pick on it all you want, but you know what? Get the fuck out of here. You haven't been there. So
go away. You're irrelevant little person. Go away. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If you haven't done what they've done, just piss off.
Yeah. Just shh.
Yeah.
You're irrelevant. You're irrelevant. But I'm not saying you're. What I'm telling you, you have an opportunity to be relevant. So go and better yourself. Don't just rubbish someone who you are not comparable with. It's just sad.
It is.
So yeah.
So, mate, anyway, we do have to move on. So, unless you've got any more to add in relation
no, mate, the big takeaway is every Australian should see that. Every Australian, get on to 7+ and watch Bravery and Betrayal.
Yep, definitely. It was, it's an outstanding documentary. And I'll vouch for it. Mate, but we've actually got a sponsor.
Big Camo Sauce. Big Camo. Had beers with him, Mackay. Good man. Good fella.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, if you haven't tasted Big Camo Sauce, you need to. However, he's given the opportunity. So, what are we going to call it, Damo?
Well, I think it's the extra sauce on the hamburger. Something similar. I don't know. We're open for suggestion. What we want is Big Camo, very generously, is going to donate a bottle of Big Camo sauce, the variety of which is your choice, for a first responder who's done something positive, above and beyond to a point. Now, we're not talking bravery medals here. Well, bravery medal, absolutely. But basically, we want first responders around the country and in New Zealand and wherever else you're listening to get in touch and tell us about yourself if you want, but a colleague who's gone above and beyond. And it's just going to be a little quiet shout out, and the reward's going to be a bottle of Big Camo sauce. So that's what it basically is. I think we call it the extra sauce on the hamburger. That to me is a good little summary of what it is. So who put the extra sauce on the hamburger this time or this shift? So yeah, Big Camo, big shout out to you, mate. You're doing a bloody good job up. Based out of Serena, just south of Mackay. And just a barrel of laughs. Good fella, big character, good bloke, good friend of the podcast.
Yeah, he is very, very good friend, and we thank you for your support, mate. And look, this is a weekly thing. So send in people that have gone above and beyond, done something. Like you said, it can be extraordinary, but it needs to be something good.
Yeah.
And you'll get a free. We'll send it out to you, a
Yep.
free bottle of camo sauce. You're choosing. I'm getting a truckload sent to me. So
Yeah, happy days. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't take away from the carton of the week because we still like to take the piss. So
exactly.
let us know your carton of the week, but let us know your extra sauce on the hamburger.
Well, actually, in saying that, mate, I do have a carton of the week, and I do apologise. I know the story, but I can't remember the person that said it. I will apologise to him after this. But basically, it's in relation to what happened was a cattle truck turned over. And I imagine you've been to those. I've been to one or two of them.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
very destructive when
Yeah.
you get a semi trailer of cattle.
Very
Um,
disorganised abattoir, mate, is what that is.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Mm.
and look, look, the scenes are horrific. Some of these beasts are absolutely destroyed, legs missing, and all that sort of stuff. Um, and anyway, and you've got to put a lot of them down,
Mm.
and basically wrangle the rest of them up. It's one of the jobs actually NT is probably pretty big in, I would say.
Yeah. I've been to three. I've been to three cattle truck rollovers. One was catastrophic. There was just beef everywhere. One was sort of half-half. There were stray cattle that were very stressed and quite aggressive all over the place. It was a hell of a scene. And the other one was pretty basic. But no, there were still cattle on the truck and they were fine and there was a couple of strays. But yeah, I've been to three cattle truck rollovers. And yeah, they're a show.
Oh, they are. And yeah, I went out to one at Borroloola, and I think even that one, we had to put quite a lot of animals down.
Mm,
And I mentioned Dylan, he actually grabbed his own firearm
mm,
because he knew it and he knew he knew the range and everything of it. Anyway, I went out there. We had to put down quite a few animals,
mm,
beasts basically because they're beyond repair.
mm.
And anyway, ended up getting in trouble because he used a non-issued police firearm. And look, you could do
Oh,
that back in. Yeah, that's right. It's just that's just a really, it's very minor in the fact that he mentioned he wrote it in, he put the serial number, everything of the gun in there.
mm,
It's, yeah, that's legit. He just wanted to use his own because
mm.
he knew how it handled, and
Yeah,
that's what he used. And we used to do that back in the day without any questions asked.
yeah.
So really, look at what you're looking into.
Mm,
Really, that's pretty pathetic, I think. But moving on from that, anyway, he had to actually cut and basically between the second and third level, something like that, and the instrument got damaged. It's quite an expensive instrument if anybody's done recovery or where they've got to cut vehicles open and all that sort of thing. I don't think it was actually the Jaws of Life, but it was something similar. And I do apologise because I'm just remembering this off the top of my head. And anyway, it got damaged. They end up getting it cut open, but had to use other means. But the machinery was destroyed.
mm.
So I think that's definitely a carton.
That's a carton, Dylan.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. 5E, you bastard. Breaking the
yeah.
SES. Right? Those storm carrots do like their rescue equipment, my boy. So don't be trashing it. Bloody coppers trashing SES equipment. That's not right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, mate, the other thing we have to talk about is the fact that Coley Anderson has bought her carton.
God bless her cotton socks. Yep. Yeah, that was excellent. She sent this very random text message of in full commander uniform with a carton of beer. She's paying up. So if a commander of police from the NT's got the humility to go, paying my carton, lads, well, you all do. So make sure if you get nominated for a carton of the week, you pay your carton.
Definitely. That's the second commander I've had pay a carton. The first
Yeah,
was Jeanette Kerr.
yeah, done
Um,
well.
she was in the media, and I had a tense conversation out the back of the Catherine Police station at one stage, and I said, "You owe a carton for being in the media," and she said, "Is that really a carton?" I said, "Yeah, bloody oath it is."
Mm,
Anyway, it was pretty lucky. Her partner Helen Brown was there at the time, and basically backed me up on it. She was a superintendent, so
yep,
and yep, Jeanette did pay her carton. So
paid a carton. Yep.
I,
So
I,
respect,
I can
respect.
honestly say I've had two commanders pay a carton on our suggestion.
Perfect,
Uh,
mate. Yeah. So look, just a bit of a basically our comments on other people's work today, but I think the takeaway is Make sure you watch that. All Australians need to watch that Bravery and Betrayal. That it's the modern day Gallipoli to me. What Australian soldiers, what the Australian Defence Force did in Afghanistan, and very specifically the Australian Special Operations Task Group. Hats off to you lads. I know a few people who've served, especially in Second Commando, not so much SASR, but I know a few guys from there, and they are, to this day, just humility is a big one. People picture a Special Forces soldier as some big, arrogant, muscle bound freak. Absolutely not. A lot of humility, just a lot of drive, a lot of passion, and just bloody good humans. So
Yeah.
that's all I got, mate.
Yeah, mate. And look, this is a regiment that isn't easy to get into.
Oh, God,
Um,
yeah.
it
Near on
is.
impossible to get into. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So they select the best of the best, and not just because they're big brutes, but because they're smart, they're clever, they've got a good moral compass, all that sort of stuff. Everything is tested. So their mindset is probably more on their mindset than anything.
Of course it
Um,
is.
to get in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're exceptional people, and a big shout out to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you got to watch it. And also, we want to hear carton of the week for next week. I will correct the one from this week, but I can't actually find the message at the moment. We've had
Yeah.
so many come in. And big camo,
The
mate.
extra sauce on the burger. Tell us about
That's right.
someone who put a little bit of extra sauce on their hamburger.
And I think the important thing about that is Big Camo actually wanted to commend people for doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because and we've spoken about this time and time again. You've tried to get your guys some medals and all that sort of thing, or awards in
Mm.
relation to the work they've done, and the hierarchy I suppose, reluctant to do
Mate,
it.
yeah.
So,
No,
you
definitely.
know what? The two ordinary cops will do it.
Bloody oath. And
Yeah.
I never thought I'd do this, but a massive shout out from the two ordinary cops to the Special Air Service Regiment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
No, you're outstanding, guys, and keep doing what you're doing. You've got our support, that's for sure.
absolutely. All the best.
All right, we'll see you next week.